This is a fascinating story. It's fascinating, particularly because of the hyperbolic language of one particular conservative politician from the UK, Michael Howard, who suggested that Theresa May, the Prime Minister of Britain, could go to war over Gibraltar in the same way that Margaret Thatcher went to war over the Falklands. This is in the middle of their negotiations to leave Brexit, to leave the EU, quote unquote Brexit. And in this consideration, in the negotiations, they're having a conversation over the relationship between Spain, the UK, and Gibraltar. Gibraltar connected to Spain. Historically, Spain has had claim over Gibraltar, considered really to be a part of Spain, with the exception that it has been controlled for the last 300 years by the UK. It still remains almost one of their lasting colonies in many ways to think about this. In terms of the Brexit vote, Gibraltar voted 99% in favor of remaining in the EU. So the sentiment there is pretty, I mean, you don't get higher than 99. You understand? It's pretty unanimous. They wanted to remain. And in the middle of these negotiations, the EU has signaled that they are going to give special privilege or special consideration to Spain's opinion over this relationship with Gibraltar. This creates kind of a convoluted situation because as it stands right now, Gibraltar is still a part of the UK. And now saying that the UK has to worry about, in the middle of their negotiations, special treatment or special privilege given to Spain as a result of Gibraltar, that has created this environment in which Spain is now having to say, oh, calm down, particularly Michael Howard, calm down. There's no reason to discuss war over Gibraltar when we're really just talking about the negotiations. It does beg the question of like trying to understand this. Why is this even an issue? Why is the EU giving a special privilege to Spain besides the historical claim to over the territory, besides the geographical location? Why would they do this? The best thing that we came up here to help you understand would be Guantanamo Bay. Right. If the United States entered into negotiations with a council of Latin American nations or North American nations, and the special privilege was given to Cuba with regard to Guantanamo Bay, even though the United States owns, quote unquote, owns Guantanamo Bay, historically and geographically, Cuba would have a say. This shows you the position that the UK is in, and it shows you the position that Spain is in. I'm more taken aback by the fact that the language became quickly bellicose from this one particular politician. The reason I'm obsessed with that is because last week we just talked about one of the reasons for the EU was trying to prevent future wars. But then also the reality of looking at this from a historical perspective, if there ever is a future conflict in Europe in general, we would look back to Brexit as a probable flashpoint or a probable component variable that led to that conflict. And less than a week later, we have, and again, one politician. But oftentimes it only takes one politician to put this into the fray to say that they would go to war over Gibraltar like Margaret Thatcher went to war over the Falklands. Quite literally, I don't think anyone honestly believes that this is going to get there. However, it just shows you the complicated nature of Brexit in general, the great divide in opinion around who wanted to go, who wanted to stay. Gibraltar, much like Gibraltar did have a referendum in, I believe, 2002, an independence referendum to leave. To get independence from Britain. They decided to stay at that point. But in terms of trade, what this is based upon, the conversation is based upon the trade aspect. If you think about all of the trade that would happen in Gibraltar would go through Spain anyway. Right. So this consideration, while it may seem it seems weird. Let me just start there. It seems weird to me for the EU to give special privilege to Spain because of what legal press where it's a part of the UK, and I get it. It seems weird, but when you consider they're in the process of renegotiating or setting the terms that they're going to renegotiate their trade deals, they're renegotiating how their relationship in general. You take Gibraltar, trade is going to go through Gibraltar, through Spain. It really puts it in context that this really does have a significant bearing on Spain in general. The question is, how does this play out? How does this play out? How do Spanish and UK diplomats, how do they come to terms with the fact that this special consideration is now being given to Spain in the negotiations, so that now the UK does specifically have to be concerned with Spain as an individual nation versus negotiating with the European Union as a whole? It adds another wrinkle into the process of exiting the European Union, but I don't think anyone said that Brexit was going to be easy. I am just fascinated to see how this actually plays out over the long run and see what position it is actually, what tensions come as a result, not just of the Gibraltar situation, but Brexit in general. Because there wasn't even, 70 years ago. It's just, there's people alive today who remember when Europe was engulfed in war versus the relative peace that we've understood it to have in our lifetimes.